Hi guys, welcome to the Boys of Yoga and Men's Health Stretch and Reset. I'm Chris McGee, Mr. PMA himself, Faisal joining us for the last one, and Michael James Wong. We're going to take you through some hip work today. It's exactly the same format as we've been following for the other 3 videos. If you've been following us all the way through, we're going to have 3 movements that we're going to show to help you stretch out and ease off the hips, especially if you've had a hard week training, doing a lot of leg work, a lot of heavy squatting or things like that. So we're going to start with a pose that's called Easy Pose. And this is literally just going to be sitting down cross-legged. It's something that we don't do very often. You just see a couple of different versions of it here. Faisal is going to keep his legs crossed. You can see that his knees are a little bit higher, his hips are a little bit tighter than Michael's, where he's got a much nicer kind of like splay of the legs and the knees are much closer to the floor. The key thing to make sure is that the pelvic position is correct. And you can see that both guys are nice and tall, growing out of the pelvis, lengthening up through the spine. If you notice that you're kind of sitting back and rounding into the low back, again, we're decreasing that space at the front of the hip. We want to get nice and tall and let the knees drop out in order to maximize that space. We're going to go from here down into our second pose, which is going to be a reclined shoelace. So if you guys want to make your way down onto your back, shoelace pose, we're going to take the right leg over the top of the left. So if you think about it just like you're trying to cross your legs, ideally we would have the knees perfectly aligned, but it doesn't really matter if that happens or not today. As we draw the legs in, we're going to take the ankles away from one another. We're pointing our toes up towards our head, and then we're using the elbows to draw the feet down towards the outside edges of the mat. You're going to get a really nice stretch through the outside of the hips here. Feeling that all right?
Yes, I am.
Nice, perfect, okay. It's a little bit uncomfortable, especially if your hips are quite tight or depending on what your hip dexterity is like. It might feel like a challenge in order to spend your full kind of 2, 3, 5 minutes in this pose, but you're gonna get a lot of benefit from these postures. So if you can, just throw some TV on or something in the background, throw a stopwatch on, keep yourself counting. Nice guys, you want to swap it up and just show the other leg, just take the left leg over the top of the right. Again, these guys are not going to spend the whole time in the postures, unfortunately for them, but they are just going to give you an idea of what it looks like to balance out on both sides. You're trying to create the same sensation. You might be aware that one leg feels really tight and one leg doesn't feel as tight. That's totally normal. That happens all the time. Just know which is which for you, and then know that the tighter leg, you might want to spend an extra 30 seconds, a minute trying to stretch that to bring it into balance with the other side of your body. Great guys, you want to let that go. Come on up. We're going to spin around. The last posture is going to be our half pigeon. So this is going to be a prone posture. Take your right shin parallel to the short side of the mat and extend your left leg back behind you. Now, how parallel the right shin gets is entirely going to depend on your hip flexibility. Even if it's pointed back towards your left hip a little bit, we still want to keep the right knee out of the line of the pelvis so we can really truly square the hips down. So we're thinking about rolling this left hip towards the mat, squaring ourselves off, creating space through the front of the right hip. If you imagine you had 2 lines that you were drawing down to the floor, one of them is going through the right glute, coming down through the sitting bone, and the other one is where the left belt loop would be, drawing down towards the floor to square the hips. If you're finding this really difficult and you feel like your hips are a million miles away from the floor, take a block, take a cushion or something like that, and wedge it underneath the bent leg, which in this case would be the right leg, in order to make sure that you've got something to prop you up and keep you from having all the weight sinking into nothingness there. Nice guys, you want to take your way out of that and just make it round into the other leg. This time the left shin coming forward. And again, the guys are not spending an appropriate amount of time in these poses to get maximum benefit. They're just going to show you the different variations. And really, it's entirely up to you how low you go into the pose. You can see that Faisal is staying nice and high. This is good because he's got nice length through the spine. He's opening up into the chest. He's not collapsing through the upper body. Michael is really comfortable here. His hips are already on the floor. His pelvis is completely neutral. So he feels really comfortable to just relax his chest down towards the ground and extend the arms forward. Whatever works for you. There's no right or wrong when it comes to what happens to the upper body here. It's just what your body type needs. So pay attention to that. Nice guys. Thanks very much. Make your way out. And that's it. We're all done. The final video for Stretch and Reset. The Boys of Yoga and Men's Health. Faisal, Chris, Michael, thank you very much for joining us.